Every Nigerian must be instrumental to the growth and development of our nation through the use of innovative energy and idea to lead and initiate policies that will sustain the economy and enhance good governance. With all the financial turmoil facing the world, it has become pertinent for exchange of new ideas that will enhance good governance. Please subscribe to our channels, listen to our messages and engage with us. With your support, we can transform the lives of all Nigerians. Welcome to the Season 2 of the NESG Radio.
Welcome to NESG Radio. I am pleased to have with me Ms. Etemore Glover. She is the CEO of Impact Investors Foundation, which is the Secretariat for the Nigerian National Advisory Board for Impact Investing. We will be delving into the gender aspect of impact investing in Nigeria. So we'll be looking into questions such as, can impact investing promote gender equity and female-led enterprises? I'm sure these are questions that you would like answered, so stay tuned to find out. My name is Oluwaseyi Vincent. I am your host for today. Ms. Glover, welcome to the studio. It's so good to have you here with us.
Thank you, Oluwaseyi.
Great. Okay, so let's get started. Evidence has suggested that access to finance is unfavorably skewed against women, irrespective of the sector. There is a need for more gender-focused financial instruments that will enable women-led MSMEs and social enterprises to have access to suitable finance for their businesses. What would you say is driving this observed inequality?
Okay, thank you very much. First and foremost, the number of female participants in the space is very low. If you look at the MSME space, even particularly this research which will be launched this year, you find out that there is less than 10% of women that are in the MSME space, which is quite alarming for me as a person. And even if you look at the supply side, the number of female fund managers is also very low. So we need to be very deliberate in terms of, mainstreaming women, mainstreaming gender in our conversation, not only to give them opportunities, but also to bring in that aspect that women are skilled in terms of doing. If you have more female fund managers in the space providing capital, guess what? There's opportunity for many women to also have access to finance. So we must be very deliberate in getting women on board. I want to be thankful, to a few DFIs that have come up with this 2X challenge framework, which I'll say is a baseline of how women can be incorporated across value chains, whether in management, whether in, as employees. We need to ask ourselves, how many women are filling in roles in my organization at board level, in my own, value chain, right? As an investor, you're asking your portfolio companies that how are you deliberately bringing in women on board? We cannot continue to sideline women. So gender is something that is on the top burner, particularly for all investors. Most DFIs will not fund without seeing that deliberate investment strategy that builds in women. I think that's the right way to go. So I'm saying that this is just the beginning point. The second point is, how are we getting regulations and policies to create opportunities for women where it becomes part of the entire framework? So what policies are out there in the impact investing space? Though there's no particular impact investing policies, one of the things we want to be very deliberate in doing through this project and also through the National Advisory Board is being clear that gender must be mainstreamed in our policy, creating opportunities for fund managers, female fund managers, particularly first-time fund managers, for female businesses, and what are the kind of incentives should we have? Then for intermediaries and fund managers designing financial instruments, the question we are asking is, how well do we understand the needs of women MSMEs? And how can we design, the right financial instrument that will meet each woman's need? Because our faces are different, our businesses are different. You need to speak the language of these women. And that is what we intend to do. So going from grant, equity, quasi-equity, you need to, and it's a lot of work. It's not easy, but it's something I think we can do with intentionality to provide the right kind of finance. And impact investing, though it's right, but then again, what kind of instruments should these women have is something that we need to research for, that this research gives some solutions. I think is everyone should go and read it, give some solutions, but we need to bring everyone to the table to say, look, how do we unlock capital for women?
Great, fantastic. So there needs to be some deliberate strategies in terms of mainstreaming women and knowing their needs a bit better. Okay, thank you so much for that. So how can impact investment be channeled to strengthen financial access to women in Nigeria? So is it a good tool? Is it something that is useful for ensuring that women have access to finance?
Of course, it is very important that women have access to finance. I mentioned when I spoke earlier on that first we need to understand the needs of women and women in business. And what impact investing does is that it provides an opportunity for you to, as an investor, to achieve your financial returns, which is key, right?
Course, yes.
And then again, the impact probably might be depending on what you as an investor would like to achieve, creating opportunity for women in terms of maybe increasing their income levels. And that has a spiral effect in terms of, what they can do with that, maybe sending their children to school, creating opportunities, and it goes on. It could be, providing access to finance for smallholder farmers who are women, whatever your, target is as an investor. So on the side of the women, in terms of accessing impact investment, it's just like, in accessing any kind of capital. One, you must know why you are taking that money. I always say not all money is good money. You want to have an investor who will be a partner, providing you with both non-financial and financial support. Partners who can give you access to market, which is so critical as a woman in business. You also want an investor who is able to sit on your board to provide you with governance. And that's one area where many women are not kind of like really deliberate about in terms of looking at their corporate governance. But corporate governance is synonymous with sustainability. For an investor to invest in you, he wants to know that his money is safe, you have the right governance and how that money will be disbursed. He wants to know that you're taking the right decision that would not only increase your profitability, but also your sustainability to remain a going concern for a very long period of time. Those are things that women are kind of like blindsided. So impact investing is also a kind of investment. And the investors who are deploying their money want to know that, one, will their money be safe? Are you going to scale? They want to know that they're going to get their returns back. It's not, as we say in the local Nigerian parlance, dash. We're not dashing you money. We want to know that this money will be used for the purpose for which it was deployed. So not being sentimental because it's a woman, we have a strategy, to invest in women, which is very important. But we also want to know that these women will be able to deliver both financial and social and environmental returns, impact that the money was intended to make. Because I, as an investor, would have to report those impacts from my portfolio company, be it a woman. So women need to be deliberate. Women need to position themselves, and get the right education to access capital from impact investors and choose wisely who to go along this journey with you. Though its impact capital is coming from somewhere, not everyone will be a right partner. You just want to look for someone who has your interest and to contribute both financially and non-financially to your fund or your business.
So the female entrepreneurs also have important steps that they need to take to make sure that they position themselves to get the kind of capital that they need. So thank you very much for that. To what extent do you think impact investment can support the achievement of gender equity and inclusion? I think you've touched on this a little bit, but if you can just, talk to us a bit more about how it can achieve that.
Thank you. When we talk about gender equity, it's not just about women, right? Now, gender equity is looking at opportunities where there is either a low female representation or male representation, and how can we use finance to create that opportunity for that balance to happen. I think if I look at this a little bit closely, is about seeing what the prevailing environmental situation is in the first instance, you can look at it sectorally. I'll give an example. There are notions that in the healthcare sector, for instance, that is a woman's job, or nursing is a woman's job. And you see a lot of nurses, who in that particular job profile, it's just a bias. And then, for instance, a male nurse who wants to come in might be shielded from coming in because of that notion that these jobs are only for female. How do we ensure that we don't have those labels that will limit people from having opportunities in job roles? This is just the basis example I can give. Then again, in terms of the supply of capital, where you see more male fund managers, everywhere. You can see 10 in a dozen. Then for women, you see 1 in a dozen or 2 in a dozen. I think being very deliberate as regulators, policymakers, and even, other players like DFIs, limited partners who are owners of assets, telling stakeholders or intermediaries that they want to invest in, you have to change this, and give them a time limit for them to change how their composition of women representation, whether at their board level, whether in their IC investment committees, whether as staff. We must work with all of these stakeholders to start making a shift. I think nationally, women must be represented by 33.3% nationally. But I want to tell you that people have 50%, baseline to say that in this organization at board level, we must have 50% women represented at board levels. We must have 50% quota for female employees. We must ensure that across our value chain, we must have 50%. It's a tall order. Do we meet it? No, but it's a target. So if you are able to get 30%, you have a 20% deficit to fill out. So it's a deliberate intention that we must, and consciousness that we must have to ensure that we are not blindsided. And that gender, like I said, is not only just for women, it's also for men. So where you come to a place where you have more female representation, then how do you increase the men participation? Because that brings about a balance in terms of decision making. And decision making is more balanced when you have everyone equally represented on the table, including young people too.
Exactly, fantastic. So equal representation requires deliberate action. I think that's something that you have highlighted multiple times now. Okay, so on a more positive note, we've seen some financial products targeting women in Nigeria from institutions such as the African Development Bank, Development Bank of Nigeria, and Sterling Bank. So do you see an increasing awareness of the importance of promoting gender equity in access to finance and a rising trend in financial products favoring women? If so, do you see this trend being sustained?
Of course, I'm really excited to see all of these products, coming out, even from Access Bank, the W Woman product. You mentioned the Bank of Industry funds, AFAWA funds, and etc. It's so exciting to see all of this, being, I wouldn't say mainstream, they are coming in. But the question I'm asking is, what is the impact? Who is measuring the impact? What kind of impact are these products making in the lives of these women who are receiving the funds? Are we intentional? Are we doing it because it sounds good? Or are we doing it with that intentionality to solve a problem, which is providing access to finance for women? While I'm excited, my excitement will be complete to see the numbers, to see the impact. So there's an aspect of impact investing that has been quite blindsided, which is the measurability, because impact has 4 core characteristics, and one of them is the intention to measure and report your impact, which brings it impact integrity and impact transparency and accountability. So as we design these products for women, we must ask the right questions. That what is the marginal change your intervention is making in the lives of these women? When you first met them, where were they? And where are they now? And report it with integrity. One of the things we want to see across all of this intervention is having a standardization of measuring the impact of interventions, particularly in women, so we can compare to see how we are growing in terms of our support to female enterprises in Nigeria.
Great. Thank you very much. So, is impact investing having impact? That's pretty much, the question you're trying to ask. So now, finally, how can the level of impact investment targeting women-led businesses be strengthened further in Nigeria? I know you've, touched on this here and there during the interview. So what else do you think can be done to strengthen?
I think first is the awareness is what we're doing right now. Creating awareness is so important. It's so critical, I beg your pardon. And awareness for women, awareness for intermediaries who will be responsible for designing the suitable financial instruments for female enterprises. We need education to educate the intermediaries, to educate fund managers, to educate women themselves, to also educate policymakers. So there's a lot of education that goes on at different levels that must be done. I think those two. And Sarah, I think the third one I mentioned earlier is the impact measurement, right? We need to be very deliberate and intentional in measuring our impact, because impact investing is not complete without impact measurement and impact management. Thankfully, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal is a universal standard that we can use to design our investment strategy or investment, thesis, as well as enterprises, who are, working to address any social and environmental goal can use that. And as we go along, we know that when we are creating a change, we are measuring that change and we are reporting it with integrity. There's a lot of impact washing going on. So our economy or the impact investment sector will not grow tremendously with accountability if we are not intentionally measuring our impact. But this also takes us back to education. So we need to educate ourselves on how to impact tools to use and then to report. And these are the things that the National Advisory Body is providing to members of the impact investing ecosystem.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Glover, for what has been a very interesting interview. I'm sure you'll all agree with me. Thank you to our listeners for your time. Be sure to look out for the full report, Investing for Impact in Nigeria, Deep Dive into Agriculture, Education and Health Sectors, which has gender and sustainability as cross-cutting themes. And this report is out later this year. Thank you so much for your time. Until next time.
Thank you for being a part of today's interesting program. You can learn more about the NESG's If Not Now When campaign at www.ifnotnowwhen.ng. You can also listen to other interesting conversations by visiting www.nesggroup.org/podcasts.